All right, so transitioning out of Ricochet, even though he's still pretty relevant to this next topic, we've seen the last couple of weeks, we've seen Ricochet and Shinsuke Nakamura in a feud that seemingly, I can't really identify who's the babyface and who's the heel in that situation. And we've seen Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair, and I think the same. I can't really identify who they're pushing as a babyface and who they're pushing as the heel in that situation. So I think there's a weird phenomenon taking place in WWE right now, and a couple of different stories where clear lines of good and evil are being blurred a little bit. And I'm not sure, I haven't come to a full conclusion yet if I think it's hurting or is it helping storylines that have traditionally involved baby faces, the good guys, and villains, heels, the bad guys. But it feels like Triple H is kind of evolving the storytelling process here in WWE and blurring these lines. The dichotomy doesn't seem to any longer be viewed as a singular good versus evil. It seems like we're getting just, human versus human, which I don't know. I don't know if I'm mad about that. I think there's a lot of people on the internet asking the question, and I've seen it from multiple different sources. In 2023, do we have to have the label babyface and heel? And I think a good place to start is let's take a closer look at Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair, because there's multiple angles we can kind of talk about here. Right off the bat, Charlotte Flair is typically regarded as one of the greatest female heels of all time. So it seems natural in this story to just go Charlotte bad guy, Bianca Belair good guy. But then there's a side of me that goes, well, wouldn't it be fun to see what Bianca Belair could do if she gets a run at playing the bad guy? And the constant argument that I see when I make this assumption or I have this opinion that Bianca Belair should have a heel turn is, well, if Bianca Belair turns heel, who's going to play the baby face? And the answer I tend to give back is, why do we have to define who the baby face is? The reality is, some characters are just more nuanced and don't need the restrictions that come from being labeled good guy or bad guy. I understand. I get the historical significance of babyface and heel. Most wrestling fans find comfort in the idea that there's a good guy and we cheer for the good guy, and there's a bad guy and we boo the bad guy. It's a classic trope in storytelling. Good versus evil. But modern audiences, the attention span of people, I don't think we respond quite the same. I think in everything we do, we find it hard to define good versus evil these days. And I think wrestling fans are becoming more sophisticated. Even casual fans are starting to appreciate a little more complexity from characters that can walk on both sides of that aisle, right? Kevin Owens tends to do it a little bit. Becky Lynch tends to do it a little bit. They typically have called them like tweeners, but it seems more and more that almost every character is developing a little bit of this. And I can't say that it's a bad thing. If you look at other popular television shows, characters tend to blur the lines. There tends to be seasons where certain people are good guys and seasons where they're bad guys, but they never just fully commit to an arc. They tend to have characteristics on both sides. They do some good things, they do some bad things, and it often makes those characters more intriguing and more relatable to just like the common everyday person. And I'll make a controversial point. I think that the traditional concept of babyface and heel is probably something that's holding WWE back at this point in time if they're going to lean into the non-defined characters that don't have actual gimmicks. If we're not going to create characters that have defined gimmicks, that have divine motivation, then we have to stop acting like people are motivated by being a hero and a villain. We've got to take those labels away completely. If we're not going to give people gimmicks, I don't think we need baby faces and heels. The limit that you're putting on creative possibilities for characters and stories when they don't have a gimmick is held down even more by them then having to follow this set of like, well, you can't cheat. You're a good guy. What if instead of that, we just fully embrace that all characters are complex, that all characters can switch allegiances at any time, that they can have a good week and their attitude could shift on a week-to-week basis and have a bad week the next time. It could lead to more immersive storytelling and more engagement from the audience and more relatable characters that we possibly could get behind. Why does Austin Theory have to be a heel? I don't get it anymore. You took away all the things that made him feel like a heel. You took away the gimmick, so why does he have to be a bad guy? Why can't Austin Theory just be a guy? Some days he does some bad things, some days he does some good things. The traditional roles of babyface, and heel, I know they're fundamental to the history of wrestling, but I think it's time to acknowledge that there might be an evolution in storytelling happening. I think audiences might prefer wrestlers like Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair if you don't pigeonhole them into one style, right? I mean, look at Shinsuke Nakamura and Ricochet. I really can't define who is who, but I like what's going on there. They could square off in a storyline and maybe fans just get to pick who they like better. Half of the time now, fans cheer for the heel, WWE fucking panics, and they turn a heel to babyface, which completely ruins and alters the character. I think it's inevitable, maybe more than even inevitable. I think it's necessary that for the continued growth of WWE and professional wrestling, I think it's time we just start working outside the lines of labeling guys a good guy or a bad guy. Allow Bianca Belair to cheat when she's frustrated. Allow Charlotte Flair to have an ego, but still not speak down to the crowd. I think, let's give it a shot. It could work. I see a possibility. But you guys let me know what you think. Do you guys still enjoy stories with well-defined babyface and heel? Or do you guys think it's time that we just let go of those labels and we allow people to just be complex characters who can go down whatever avenue they want to on a weekly basis?